Hello everybody, welcome back. So today I'm going to bring you along on cover work I'm doing for the Bug Mage. And so I'll kind of explain how I got to this point. So I started with, this is an example of the cover. I started with a drawing that was half this size or so for a 6x9 cover. And I did the original in soft pastel, and it was very dirty. Pastel is hard to work with. So I thought I could get more detail if I went up in size, and I had the drawing blown up to this size, which is the working size I'm doing. And this was kind of the original idea for the cover. And so then I did a large pastel, and it was a mess, and I couldn't get the detail I wanted. So then I switched over and had a digital artist help me with it, and I did not end up with what I wanted. So I decided I would go ahead and do an acrylic, which I haven't done acrylic in a very long time. That's where I am today. So the first step I'll show you, I've already done some work, and I'll turn the canvas over here in just a minute. But the first thing that I'm going to do, got my clean water out, got a brush, and I'm going to apply water on the back of my canvas. So this is primarily, I'm doing this because I live in Nevada, and Nevada is very dry. I have very little humidity, doesn't matter the time of year, it's always dry. So I'm adding water to the back of the canvas today to slow down the evaporation process in the drying of my paint. So depending on where you live, let me pull that out of the way. Depending on where you live, you can ignore this part, or you can use a spray bottle on the back of your canvas, just spritz water on it. If you feel like slowing down the drying process on your canvas is a good idea for whatever it is you're doing today. So I'm on this canvas, I went ahead and used Sorrel, which is this. It's a transfer paper. And I took the drawing I just showed you, laid it on the canvas, taped it down, and traced the basic outline of what I'm doing onto the canvas. This was after I had gessoed the canvas for painting. So Sorrel on canvas, even over a gessoed surface, is not going to give you a strong line on things. So you may touch it up with your pencil, or use whatever processes you use in creating your art. But that's what I'm doing today. If you're wondering, I'm just applying plain clean water to the back of my canvas, and that's just to hopefully slow down the drying process a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over, and this is where I'm at with the canvas today. I've done one layer of phthalo, the blue, and just a parchment on this part, just to knock down the white. So I use that to tone my canvas. And I need to do a bit more work on that, because I still have some white to cover, and that's what you're coming along for today. So I'm going to do a brief, a little bit of brief painting. So I'll pull out the correct, this is my box of colors, and I'll pull out the correct blue. Let me dig for it here. Let me find it. Why they always hide from me. I should do a better job of being prepared. But I'm not as prepared as I would like to be at this moment. Here's my phthalo blue. Umber cerulean. Cerulean. There it is. Okay. So here's the color I'm using. And I'm going to use a little splotch of paint. And I'm going to, because this is a gessoed white, which you know the gesso is to prepare your canvas. And I probably have 2 coats of gesso on here. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the airbrush medium for acrylic today. And I'm going to do that because I really don't want to lose the surface, the paint on the surface. And if you don't mix with a medium, your acrylics can lift later. And, you know, it's just good practice if you're working with acrylics to use a medium rather than mixing with water, because the medium has the polymers or whatever. So you just open it up. You're going to use it very much like you would water to loosen your paint. Now my paints are a little old. They've sat in storage for a number of years. So I want to loosen them a little bit. By using the medium, I get closer to what I want. So one of the things I learned was I did not like the placement of this leg of the spider when I saw it. And I have changed Destine, which is my main character, a little bit. So I'm going to come in here and basically the 4th leg on this side is not this one. So I have to fix that. It'll come down like this. So I'm just blocking in. This blue will have more work done to it as the painting goes along, obviously. But I want to block in what I know I don't want so that I don't make a further error. All right, so I know I don't want that there. I know I don't want this leg here. So I'm going to come in here and kind of block out the white. This is really what I'm doing, is blocking out the overwhelming white of raw canvas. Well, it's gessoed canvas, but it's the same difference. And it corrects my colors later. So I had the biggest expanse on this painting was space itself. So that's why I did the blue first. And then I'm going to go in today and I'm going to knock down some of these other white areas. And I don't have to be super, super careful because I am going to paint over nearly everything. I'm always careful because that's my personality. But I don't have to be extremely careful because most of what you see is going to have other paint on top of it in some form. So I know I'm going to have a 4th leg that comes out here somewhere. I don't have to decide exactly where today, but I do need to, so I have to come in where the body of the spider is, which is in here. And I'm going to make a decision that it's not going to be here. So this is really a negative decision, I guess you'd say. I know where it's not going to be. It's not going to be interrupting my main character, which is what it's doing today. All right, so I've fixed that. It's gotten a little dark, but I fixed it. And so that part of the blue is done. And I'm going to come over to this part of the canvas. I'll try to move within view of you. Let's see if I can move that over a little. And I'm going to darken in this area because after I saw it, I wanted it darker. Just kind of in this area. I was up dark on this side and it got a little too light in here. Too quickly it got lighter. I wanted it lighter, but not that fast. So I'm just going to do a little merging here to add a little bit more darkness in the area where it'll be darker later. Okay, so I have done what I wanted to do with the blue. So my next step is to work on I'm going to clean this brush. So this is going to take me a second. So I need to knock down the spider, knock down the white of the spider, and knock down her. But I don't want to tone so thick that I can't see my pencil lines through it. So my objective here, let me find my light gray, and I'm going to find a light blue, find a hue. And so I'm going to basically thin down. I'll do her first because she's in blue. And let me do a little splotch of paint. So all I'm going to do is tone her because she has a blue background skin tone. So that's what I'm doing, is just doing a light blue, or my intention is to do a light blue over her. So I'm using the Liquitex acrylic medium, and that allows me to thin the paint down to a very light shade. Hopefully I can see through it. And tone the canvas. So usually, you come in and you're toning your canvas first. You do it maybe at your gesso level or right afterward. And you're using one color over the entire canvas in a very quick application of thin paint. And again, I'm using the acrylic medium so that this will stick well to the canvas. Acrylic paints sort of have a reputation of not sticking. They'll stick for a couple years and then they'll peel off. So it's a good idea to use a medium as your thinning agent, particularly this close to the gesso, so that you're letting the polymers bind together and they become their own surface kind of thing. Makes them much stronger. Later, it's not as important, but you should always have medium on hand and be willing to go to it as you're going along, particularly if you're using thick paint or something that may peel. And you'll have to know what it is you're doing with your painting. So that's all I'm doing here, is just applying light blue. And I know that her skin has a background color of blue. So this will be in the family of what she's going to be as I paint her out. So you're going to make decisions for your toning based on your drawing and what you're trying to achieve. I'm clearly working on a book cover, and I have a desire for a certain appearance in the finished work. So that's what's brought me back to painting, which I'm not unhappy about. I'm very pleased to return to my art. I spent a lot of time writing. So this is my two favorite things to do in the world are write and paint. And I go through periods for each of them where one is better than the other. So at the moment, they're very equal with me. I've gotten old enough to know I can have more than one thing that I really like, and I do. So toning, what it does is it's taking the white out. The white is too high a contrast, and it changes the color that you put against. So if I painted directly on white, I would be fighting the white because the white would be giving me an artificial sense of the colors I'm using. So by toning, I can neutralize the power of the contrast and get a better correct feel for what the color is doing that I'm applying. So this is just a light blue that I have on hand. And it doesn't matter how precise I am. I'm being a little careful, but you got to remember I've got a little bit of OCD. So I tend to be a little careful in what I do. So in any of the videos that you may be watching, you're going to see that in real life just showing up. And so I can tell you that you don't have to do what I'm doing if you're trying to paint something. This is just what I do and why I do it. And as you can see, the drawing is remaining visible to me, which is going to help me when I work up the details of her. I don't have to freehand it. I am not that person that goes out there and draws with her brush. I just don't. I draw with a pencil, usually a mechanical pencil, so a small pencil, and that's just where I'm comfortable, and that's what I do. So this blue tone, it will help me as I do other colors. And since I know she's got blue background skin, it adds to that. It gives me a base of the similar color field. Which is really helpful. Like I said, when I get to applying the actual colors I'll have for her clothing, etc., it won't be against the white, which is the real issue. So, anyway, you can get different kinds of medium. And because I had moved since the last time I painted, I didn't have any medium when I got here. So when I opened up my paints, didn't have any medium available, so I went and bought some. And so I have two kinds on hand besides the gesso. The gesso can operate like a medium if you have nothing else. You can kind of tint your gesso for your base for tonal quality. But I wanted to work with medium, so I went ahead and got some. And so, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Painting is fun. So anyway, I can see through this layer, which is important because I'll be adding my details later and trying for the effects that I want. And your brush strokes aren't going to matter much, even though I'm fussing over them a little. I'm trying to tell myself, don't fuss. Just get the base coat down, tone it up so that I can do. So what happens from here is I'm going to do this tonal that you're watching, and then I'm going to let it dry. Now, I may let it dry for one day, or I may let it dry for a week. It depends. I have other things I'm doing. So I have lots of other things I need to get done that I'm working on. And you know what your projects are doing. So you're going to base what you're doing based on your needs. I know that the canvas will work better in some ways if the surface hardens a bit. And the surface hardens a bit when you let it dry. So I'm not working wet on wet. And sometimes, you have to blend colors and things like that. But I'm going slowly and more carefully because I'm very out of practice. And so I'm relying on what I know from the past. And, kind of bringing my skill set back. So when you tone a canvas, you should try to stay in a color that is useful to your painting. So hopefully you have your painting somewhat figured out before you start. And so that you have an idea of where you're going and what colors are likely to be part of your process. So you can see I toned her up, and I need to tone up the spider. So I'm making another splotch where you can't see. Making another splotch, and I'm adding medium next to it, and I'm going to get a bigger brush, and I'm going to mix gray. And I'm mixing gray because the spider is going to be a mixture of gray and brown. And again, all I'm doing is toning, and I'm knocking out the white. So let's see if I can do this without being too messy. So I'm not as worried if you're looking at the picture. I don't know how much you can see, but there are planets on this picture. And I'm not too worried that they're still white. But there's only one big one, and then there's kind of 3 pretty small planets. And they don't have a lot of detail. The spider in this case, what you're looking at, the spider and Destine are the front cover of a novel. And so they're going to have the most detail of the entire painting. All right. So I'm concerned with still being able to see my lines up here, so I know what I'm doing. But I'm not concerned with lines around the planets. So as you see, I'm not being super concerned in what I'm painting here. I'm just trying to cover up the white and give my spider a base. This is Zeppelin, the spider. And the book that this goes to is called The Bug Mage. It is already written. It is already formatted. It has a lot of art. I illustrated the chapter headers, and I did character studies for the novel. So it has a tremendous amount of art. I think it has like 50 interior art pieces. And I'm picking up cat hair. So it's an adult fantasy novel with illustrations. Sort of kind of old school, what they used to do. And it's what I wanted to do, which that's what I'm doing these days, is doing what I want. So this is kind of the final piece. I'm also doing a bookmark, which I've done once already, and I'm getting ready to do it again because I had a color conflict in it. So you'll probably see that in a video very shortly here as I finish up the art for the Bug Mage, which is kind of one of my objectives. So yeah, so I've done a lot of artwork for the Bug Mage, and one of the things that happens when you're doing art for your own work is that you're off the hook in terms of deadline. And so you can redo, like this cover. I'm redoing it. This is the 4th version of this particular cover. And it's okay. I didn't like the other ones. I didn't think they were good enough. They're never going to be the level of professionalism I think I really want, because I'm just not there. But I am the artist, so they'll be as good as I can be at the moment, and I'll be okay with that. I've come to terms with some things in my life, and that's one of the things I've come to terms with, is that you need to be where you are. You know, I will probably get better, given enough time left. But this is the only art that exists for this novel, and that's what you get. And I think it's not bad art, although I don't really like the categorizing any art as bad. It's just where I'm at, and I'm going to enjoy it, have fun making it for you, have fun sharing it with you, and offering you a little bit of my process and tips based on my lifetime of doing all kinds of artistic things. And maybe some of it will help you somehow, or maybe you'll just enjoy watching it. Either way, I think it's great. So today, this is what we're doing. And like I said, I'll let it dry, and then I'll come back in another video and do more. So if you are just joining my YouTube channel and just seeing this, I am putting them in categories, and I have this one will be going into a category called science fiction and fantasy book covers, because I have a lot of novels, and so there are other book covers that are going to show up relatively quickly here. And the inspectors, which you have already probably seen, I'm releasing the audio and audio version along with the chapter headers. It has a cover, obviously, too. And I've done a cover for that in the past year that didn't turn out quite right. Familiar theme here. So you will be seeing the cover of the inspectors very shortly as well. Because that's the book I'm working on right now with the artwork, the interior art. And it's a science fiction adventure story. So most of my science fiction and fantasy novels are would be categorized as adventure and not hard or epic or any of those things. They're a lot of my fantasy stories are modern, so it's a mixture of fantasy and modern. Getting a little bit dark here. I want to see those lines. Isn't that the way of it? As I get over the most of the lines, that's when it darkens up. When I mean it, I mean me. I'm darkening my paint for some reason. But again, all I'm doing is toning the spider so that the blue next to it looks different. It's not going to be as stark as it did just a minute ago. So the toning has an immediate effect on what your eye sees, and as a painter, it helps us get the colors that we want. Instead of responding to the dramatic contrast that we see initially, it allows us to get more subtle colors and blends and to get the effect we really want to have. So, my little tip here. So I wanted to say something that I've noticed a lot of videos on YouTube, since that's where I'm posting right now, talking about the fundamentals. And what I want to say is this, is that it's great if you were able to go to art school. But the reality is a lot of artists never get that opportunity, and they become self-taught by default. And that's okay now, because you can go on places like YouTube and you can be your own class. You can seek out the information that you didn't have the opportunity to learn in a classroom setting. You can improve your art by watching other artists doing things, and you can learn the tips that came out of art school. And if you're serious about learning art, you will. You'll seek out what you need, and you'll develop the tools that let you create what it is you want to create. So don't feel defeated or elitist by having gone to an art school or not. But just look at your own work for what it is and what it is you want to achieve. If you want to get good at something, you will. And the real trick to getting good at something is doing a lot of it. So if you want to get good at painting, you'll paint every day. If you want to get good at drawing, you'll draw every day. And the practice is its own